So just to start off with, just to give you a little background on my wife and I, so we're not complete strangers. Matter of fact, that's actually 24 years now that we've been married. We just celebrated November 26th, our 24 years of marriage. And so we like to tell people we are not experts in marriages because we've only been married one time. So if you want somebody to teach you how to get multiple, then that's not. We want one marriage for long term. That's our expertise. I was a former cop with the LAPD for 10 years. My wife was a government employee, and for many years we were struggling financially. We were eventually ended up $7,000 in credit card debt. We were on the verge of a divorce, a verge of a bankruptcy, and a verge of a foreclosure. And we thought to ourselves, how the heck did we end up here? We're good people. We got college degrees and we work really hard. How did we end up here? And so instead of getting a divorce like most people do and filing for bankruptcy, we realized if we wanted to change our lives, we needed to start taking responsibility. And everyone, I was pointing at my boss, I was blaming her, I was blaming the government, I was blaming what happened to me when I was 5 years old. And the moment I realized that I'm the source, I'm the only common denominator, if I want to change my life, I got to change me. Instead of trying to change her, let me start changing me. And so we both decided to go on this journey of personal development. And over the last 20 something years, we've gotten all kinds of certifications. We've been trained by the best, traveled around the world with Tony Robbins, did some amazing things with Robert Kiyosaki, and just a lot of amazing people. So, a lot of the stuff that you'll see here today is specifically on the shoulders of many giants that we've learned from, but also our personal experience of what it took to actually have a great relationship. So, um, this was us many years ago, constantly fighting, blaming each other, trying to change each other. We ended up becoming more friends and roommates than lovers. And then there was talks of divorce. And in looking at divorce, it's one of the greatest net worth killers, if not the number one in the United States. Where I just had a buddy of mine a couple of years ago. We used to be partners in the LAPD. He had built up a net worth of 800,000 between his home and his wife, and they ended up getting a divorce. And in that divorce, 50% of that went to attorneys, and then they split the other 50%. But it wasn't just the net worth; it was the challenges with their kids and their friends and the splitting up and everything. It just created a lot of destruction. So one of our missions in life is to help people to prevent that by learning some simple things, and we hope that maybe that can help you or maybe somebody that you know out to avoid that death of a relationship. And the first philosophy we wanted to share with you, we learned from one of our mentors. Her name is Allison Armstrong. Allison Armstrong she wrote a book, if you never read it, called Queen's Code, the best relationship book on the planet, no doubt about it. And she had to end up getting a divorce before went through this whole journey of learning about relationships. And she was at a seminar, and she stood up, and she had the instructor was asking her about her relationships, the past relationships that she had, and how it ended up leading into a divorce. And she went through this whole scenario that, I find a man, I find a guy, and everything is really amazing at the beginning, and everything is firing on all cylinders, and he's just this amazing knight in shining armor. And then about a year to 2 years later, he turns into an ass. He turns into a completely different person. So we broke up. And then she told about another relationship. Same scenario. Amazing at the beginning, and then a year to 2 years later, and then talked about her husband. Same scenario. And the instructor looked at her and he goes, "Oh, you're a frog farmer." And she started boiling up. "What do you mean, frog farmer? What does that mean?" He says, "Oh, it sounds to me like, have you ever heard of the table of where a princess kisses a frog and turns it into a prince?" And she said, "Yeah. Seems to me like you're doing the opposite with the men in your life." And she just and was just got, but she said what happened was, instead of him being the antagonist, what if he was sharing a gift? And she went on this journey of researching men and women from a scientific perspective to see if there was in fact some things that women do that turn their men into frogs. And what she came up with was this: women, because of, not that because they're bad people, And I'm going to show you what men do to women as well. So this is a two-way street, okay? Yeah, 100%. So everybody just take a deep breath in. But many women, because of past wounds and experiences that they've had to protect themselves, they tend to emasculate the men in their lives. And how do they emasculate? Emasculation is to deprive a man of his role or identity, to castrate, to make someone weaker or less effective, to diminish the ability to produce result, correct, interrupt, criticize, complain, and withhold love. In essence, what women tend to do to men is they diminish their ability to produce results, which causes a lot of interesting things in the dynamic of a relationship. So let's talk specifically of what does this look like in the real world with relationships? Well, here are some ways. And by the way, men do it to men, women do it to women as well. And but this is specifically in a relationship, in an intimate relationship. Has anybody here ever given silent treatment to their man? Once a week, or she needs to. The silent treatment is a way of emasculating. Correcting or interrupting. Okay, correcting or interrupting. Cutting somebody off is a way of emasculating. Withholding physical or emotional attention to your partner as punishment is a form of emasculation. Jealousy with other guys of how come you always have to hang out with your friends? Why don't you spend more time at home? Nagging on the little things of nagging about what they're wearing, nagging about what they're doing, nagging how come they don't do this, how come they should do this, questioning them constantly. What are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you going with them? Why do you have to do that all the time? Emasculates the men in your life. Calling attention to their ineptness of all the things that they should be or that they shouldn't be. Emasculation. Not letting them finish a sentence, constantly cutting them off, causes men to shut down and dim their light. Complaining all the time of the different things that should be done in the house, the different things that are happening, complaining. And there's a way of turning a complaint into a great ask, which you can get even more when you actually communicate. Better way. Criticizing. When you criticize the men in your life, it emasculates. By the way, as I'm going through this, this isn't just for intimate relationships. This is for business partnerships. This is for employee, employer type situations. This is for women, men, for parents and kids as well. When we do these things, just understand it shuts down their ability to want to devote and inspired to devote to you. A couple of other things. Never satisfied will take over. Oh, you can't ever do the dishes right. Let me do it. Take it over. Compare unfavorably to other men. And I won't go into too many details for a lot of these, but you guys can kind of get the picture. Teasing is like a knife. Can you expand on that one? Just treating like a little boy, just diminishing, like, oh, you think like you're so whatever, just basically reducing somebody's self-worth to nothing. To nothing. Thank you for that. Withhold appreciation and information. Withholding appreciation and information. Ladies in the room, if you only remember one thing that I share with you today, you want to rock your man's world, appreciation is like oxygen to their soul. When you appreciate them, even if it's for the little things. And in your mind, you might be saying, well, there's nothing I can appreciate them for. Well, if there was something you could appreciate, maybe their shoes or their socks. Oh, you have no holes in your socks. Well, I really appreciate there's no holes in your socks today. Acknowledging is very important. When you ignore them, emasculation. When you boss them around, telling them to do this, telling them to do that, emasculation. Saying comments to put their gender down, such as, so refreshing to finally see a man who knows how to communicate, an indirect jab to your man. Disgusted attitude or noises or like when you're talking with friends and family and your man says something, can't believe you just said that. Okay. Emasculation. How many of us, if we were honest, you don't have to raise your hand, but may have done one or two or few of these things in your lifetime, right? And in all honesty, none of us are really aware because most of us got taught, and most of us, it's just a natural instinct to protect ourselves from being hurt. but we don't even realize what we're doing to our partner. So coal mining is what we found men tend to show up that create chaos in their relationship. And what is a coal miner? Well, if a frog farmer is someone that takes a perfectly amazing human prince that God created with all of his gifts and turning him into a frog, then on the other side, men tend to be coal miners. And a coal miner, if you think of a diamond is a precious stone that is created because of what? It's created because of three things: pressure, time, and heat. And it's an element of coal that it needs the right pressure, too much pressure, and it turns into a pulp. And with men, sometimes they put too much pressure on their women by being controlling, by being manipulative, by telling them what to do, by being overly jealous. But the flip side of it, if there's not enough pressure, it will never turn into the precious stone, which is a diamond. And our women in our lives, with their God given gifts, are beautiful diamonds inside, meant to sparkle and radiate. But if we don't put enough pressure, then we tend to be the nice guy, and we tend to be the doormat. We tend to be the pleaser. And our women do not feel safe if they have a pleaser. They might like you for the moment, but eventually it turns into friends and roommates and not necessarily lovers. So what men do is they objectify women. And objectify is to present or regard as an object, to treat as an object, words or gestures, unsolicited touch, or criticize. When men make women feel unsafe, they go to emasculate. So, what if our partners were actually responding to us? And how we showed up could change the dynamic in any one of our relationships. So, this is what men do: men don't allow their women to empty their basket. What is their basket? Well, women, and we're going to go through a few different frameworks, but women, you are designed completely different than men in the sense of you have more estrogen, you have more hormones, men have more testosterone, and that actually causes us to be a certain way. So, because women are great at communicating, they're great at their intuition, every day they go, there's information that comes in. And for us guys, because we have something called laser focus, we may not necessarily see. It's a superpower that women have. But with all that information that comes in, you can think about it as going down the shopping cart in a grocery store. And as you're rolling with your shopping cart, all of the things are jumping in your shopping cart. You're observing every little thing that's happening. So all this information is building up, and a woman's desire is and design is to communicate and to talk and to share. So if us men, we don't allow our women to actually express through their day, then they get a lot of tension. And with a lot of tension and a lot of information that they can't release, they end up getting overwhelmed and you have no sex. So emptying their basket is simply this: is having a special time where you allow your lady to empty her basket, to allow her to share what her day was without you. Now here's the key, because guys, the way when we listen what I got to fix, what's the problem I got to solve, what's the purpose of this conversation. Sometimes when our ladies are talking to us, they just want to talk. They don't want to be fixed. They don't want to be solved. But yet we're here trying to, and then our attention span is what I got to do. And they know when we're not present. So we have this thing that we teach is, hey, sweetie, is now a good time for me to hold your basket?
Yeah,
Okay.
anytime.
Anytime. Along with, and that leads to poverty. Yep. 100%. So, guys, anytime we do anything that causes them to feel unsafe, i.e., we get into an argument and all of a sudden I feel like it's going to get escalated. So, let me leave the house, and I leave the house because of the argument. You may think that that's a good thing, but in reality, you just planted a seed. And in the back of her mind, she's thinking, "Oh, if you're gonna leave just for an argument, what happens if things get really tough? Are you gonna divorce me? Are you gonna leave me?" So providing certainty for your partner that you are there no matter what, leaving or walking Give the storm. That's what they're all about. And even if you become the perfect oak tree and you handle and you're there present and you're loving on them no matter what storm they're going through, just know about 10 minutes later, there's probably going to be another storm. Okay. It's just the way they're designed. So we don't want to change them. Objectifying them in any way with disrespectful looks, whistles, not complimenting them. Man, guys, compliments go a long way with our ladies. Compliments, but it's got to be a sincere compliment. So, the secrets. How to get your partner to support you without manipulation or force. How many like to know how to do that? And then number two we'll share is how to use the power of your relationships to bring more success to your business and create a third genius power rather than opposition. So the first thing, how to get your partner to support you without manipulation and force. And this is a powerful framework that's so simple, but it can change any relationship. And if you think of each one of us, we all have two sides to us. We have what we call the human spirit and the human instinct or human animal. And the human animal is our natural instincts. This is our survival instincts. It usually comes in the form of either a threat or a perceived threat or an opportunity that presents itself. This is where fear, scarcity, and competition kicks in. We all need to have access to this or else we wouldn't be here today. In other words, if there's a lion chasing us, we got to be in human animal in order to protect ourselves and our family. We got to be able to tap into that side of us that has that human instinct. But then if we think about today's society, how many times are many of us living in human animal and it's not necessarily a life and death situation? Somebody cuts us off and immediately we just flip a gasket, right? Somebody says something to us on social media or sends us an email that maybe we don't like too well, and immediately we get into human animal. In relationships, many times it's not what actually happens to you, it's your reaction to what happens to that situation. And so when both partners, one or both partners are constantly in human animal, that's just a lot of arguing. That's just a lot of pain. And we like to call it the toilet bowl flush, where one person has to protect themselves and the other person comes at the other person. And the next thing you know, you're coming down here and now you're not talking for 2 weeks, which leads to a separation, which leads to a divorce because both don't know how to access the other side, which is a human spirit. And the human spirit is where you actually have choice, where instead of reacting, take a deep breath and you respond. You come from compassion, you come from happiness. This is where true partnership is. There's less effort, it's effortless, and it enhances the life experience. So, as opposed to tearing each other down, we like to say, somebody's got to go first. Somebody's got to go first and step into human spirit and say, where this is going, it's going to take us down here. How can we support each other? Instead of blaming you, how did I show up in this interaction that I can make the change and the shift? Human spirit, when more victories of the human spirit are won, relationships become amazing. Before we knew any of this, Yvette and I used to be at each other's throat. We're both Latinos. Oh my gosh. I'm talking about the fiery Latina and the fiery Latino. And on top of that, you put together the stress of being a cop. We were constantly in human animal. Once we realized that we did have access, and every single one of us has access to human spirit, we can choose and have different choices in life. The next framework, super, super powerful. Now, these are two different modes. If you think of two different modes, like the iOS for Apple and Microsoft, okay? Some people, how many are Team Apple? Okay, anybody here Team Microsoft? Team Android? Okay, cool. Not right or wrong. Some might say this is better than this, but with these two modes, they both basically have a certain outcome. They can both operate. We, as men and women, we have access to both modes. Both modes are this. The first mode is the hunting mode. And if you think of the hunting mode, when human beings were just living on the land and needed to go hunt, the hunters needed to be laser focused and get the deer, kill the deer, kill the deer. Because if they get distracted, they're not bringing home food to the family. So Hunters, when you're in hunting mode, it's all about an outcome. It's all about producing a result, and you have tunnel vision to produce that result. Okay? That's hunting mode. Men were designed to be in hunting mode. In today's society, men and women are many times in hunting mode because that's what is promoted the most. That's what needs to happen to pay the bills. That's what needs to happen in people's careers. But we have this other side to us called the gathering mode. And the gathering mode is when you're in the meadow and you're gathering, you have more flexibility. You have what I like to call women's superpower, which is called diffused awareness, where you can see and experience and feel things that somebody in hunting mode cannot. And so when you're at the meadow, you can see what berries are the poisonous ones, which trail did you come from, and you're taking in all of this data. And the gathering mode is all about flexibility and adaptability, about collaboration, about communication. Again, not one is better than the other because they both provide an incredible partnership. But what happens in these two different modes is if you don't understand what mode your partner is in, it can create a lot of chaos in your relationship. I.e., this is where a lot of judgments happen with men and women at home. Husband comes home, there's dishes, garbage in the garbage, there's clothes on the floor, and he doesn't see any of it. And now you're like, how come you can't pick up your socks from the floor? How come you don't take the trash out to the, and all of a sudden little arguments start to happen. And what she doesn't realize is he's in hunting mode and didn't see any of that. Not that he's a bad husband, but when you're in hunting mode, you're such tunnel vision, you don't see some of the things that might be calling to you. Same thing in gathering mode. I didn't know that my beautiful queen loved being in gathering mode when we go to the mall. And one time we went to go buy a Mac computer. And in my mind, I'm like, we're going to go to the Mac computer. We're going to go to the Apple store. We're going to buy a Mac computer and we're out, right? I'm in hunting mode. I got an outcome. Well, while we walk into the mall, she's walking and she sees these beautiful shiny shoes in the window of a store. She's walking over there and she's swaying and she's looking at window shopping and I'm like, babe, come on, we're going to the Apple store. Stop messing around. Stay focused. And so what I didn't know what I was doing is she was in her feminine gathering mode. And because I didn't know and honor that, I was forcing her to be more like me. And when I was forcing her to be more like me, that created a dynamic of great friends, but not intimate partners. How many follow this? The subtle things that we do that we may not be aware of. So now, when she's in gathering mode, I want to honor her gathering. And by the way, guys can be in gathering mode too. And sometimes we need to come home after a long day's work, and we just don't want to make decisions. We just want to relax. We want to just empty our mind of everything so we can be in gathering mode. So we have access to that as well. Um, so hunting mode and gathering mode, what we found in relationships is when people don't understand these different modes, they easily try to think that their partner is misbehaving. And one of my mentors, Tony Robbins, said it best. He says, "Women think that men are hairy women who are misbehaving, and they should know better." And men think that women are hairless men who are over emotional and talk too much. Okay, that's just kind. And why do we think that? Because we think that they should be more like us. But the reality of it is, we actually fell in love with them because of who they are, because they're opposite of who we are. But when you get into a relationship, especially after 2 years, when the oxytocin starts to wear off, now it gets real. And how do you interact with each other to create, sustain a loving, passion relationship? So one of the things that we teach in our Warriors and Queens events that we do is, first of all, being aware of this is pretty powerful. The second thing is to not beat yourself up for the behaviors of the past, because for most people, they just don't know that they don't know. But when we bring this awareness to people, then there becomes choice. And one of the choices that we teach the ladies in our life to do is to commit to laying down the sword of emasculation, to no longer making a conscious decision to no longer castrate the men in your life. And we are imperfect beings. So when you lay down the sword and you make a conscious effort to do that, knowing that it's going to create even better relationships for you and the opposite sex, is if you do happen to emasculate and you catch yourself, to apologize immediately to that person and let them know what you did and what you committed to, so that we can also spread the love to other people. And the same thing with men. We teach men to pick up the shield of protect and provide for our ladies. That if you ever objectify or you see some other man objectifying, that you refrain from doing that. Ships to bring. Sorry about that. That's the only thing that I got. It's a forex trading app that gives me trades directly from the chief master trader. That's real time. So it's the only one that I actually have on my phone. So Um, so more success, more business to create a third genius power rather than opposition. And I'll leave you guys with this. To keep it simple, you want to rock the opposite sex. To keep her, just remember her. She, if she feels safe, she'll be herself. If she'll feel safe, she'll open up her heart. If she feels safe, things can transform any relationship. For women, if you all you did was remember this, um, because the dynamics of relationships have changed, where a lot of young girls growing up are hearing a man is not a plan, you need to be able to take care of yourself, and there's some power behind that. But the opposite side of that is it no longer leaves any hero moments for the men in your life. The men in your life, including little pages all the way up to kings, are dying to be your hero, are dying to be your hero. And if you can create and foster hero moments, your man is going to run through walls for you. And I'll give you a simple example. A couple of months ago, Yvette and I, we had a door handle to the front door that got really loose and was almost falling off. And she realized that that was going on. And she could have easily just either fixed it herself or she could have called somebody to have it fixed. But she understands this. And she says, this is this is a moment where I can create a hero moment. So she came to me. She says, "Babe, the door handle is falling apart. Would you be able to fix it? And by fixing it, it'll provide me feeling super safe at home because who knows who's out there? There's a lot of crazy things happening. Would you be able to fix it?" And immediately, this is my queen that posed a problem to me. And if you have a healthy masculine man in your life, you know what it does? It calls upon his hero, where literally I took my shirt off and I had a Superman cape on. Okay. And I stopped what I was doing and I ran to the garage. And I'm not a good handyman, by the way. But this is my queen asking me and creating a potential hero moment. So I went to the garage, I grabbed the tools, and it took me probably something that could have took normal person 10 minutes. It took me 45 minutes to figure this thing out, right? But the whole time I'm doing it, and as soon as I was done, she acknowledged me and she thanked me. If your man doesn't feel like a hero at home, he's going to go feel like a hero somewhere else. And if he feels like a hero somewhere else, he's going to spend more time somewhere else. And I'm not just talking about work or business or money or mission. Many times this is where affairs happen because they don't feel like they're getting their needs met at home. Not that affairs are right or wrong, but remember, everybody plays a role in a relationship. So I'll end it with this. And Brent, thank you so much for allowing me to come here and speak. I'm really excited to also bring some of my community to the group because we're all about growing entrepreneurship and real estate investing as well. And Andy, thank you for having a conversation at the gym because sometimes I get so laser focused in hunting mode, I just got my ear pods in. But he just got this great smile, you know what I mean? I'm like, hey, I know this guy. He's like working out, you know. Yeah, well, thank you. Now we do have conversations, and it is a great place to meet people. But sometimes, when oh my God, there's a lot of trades coming in. Oh, these are all closed trades. Got it. Well, these are ones that actually I'm already in that are just closed. But let me just check if there's any open ones. Hold on. No, these are all closed. Oh, wow, sweet. Okay. So, for those of you that maybe want to get some additional training, we do one retreat a year. We might be doing more, but we do a lot of online free trainings, and we have one that's called Three Steps to Overcoming Relationship Sabotage. If you want to go there, get the free training, and then also you'll be added to our newsletter. We send about 2 or 3 emails a week just on value add in relationships, leadership, and communication. So warriorsandqueens.com/, 3 steps. You can go there, or my beautiful Vanna White has got a list here. If you want to put your name and email, we'll add you to our list, and you can get some free training and free resources from us. That's all I got. Any questions?